I grew up in Brooklyn. We felt sorry for the kids who lived in the mansions in the suburbs because whenever we went down into the street, there were always 10 kids to play stickball with. And we used to play stickball against Union Street or Crown Street. Teamwork, working together, being committed to the good of the whole. So when I was a senior, I went in to see my guidance counselor, and she asked me what I'm going to do for college. And I said, I don't know. She looked at my transcript and she said, "You're good in chemistry and you're good in math. I think you should go into chemical engineering."
We met at one of the parties that we had at Northwestern. I was an undergraduate and he was working on his Ph.D. I went to this first party, sat down next to him with my guitar, and we started playing together. It was fun. And he said he'd like to walk me home, and 8 months later we got married. Neither one of us wanted a 9-to-5 job. We wanted our job to be our life, and we wanted our life to be our job. We came out to California one summer and he worked at Douglas Aircraft. He got involved in the research going on at Cape Canaveral, and then he got involved in the Alaska pipeline.
And then of all things, I ended up going to teach at the University of Notre Dame. I taught for 4 years at Notre Dame, and I was doing exceedingly well in chemical engineering and got some grants and was tenured fairly quickly. But I was getting bored with it because my work was sort of esoteric. When I read those papers that I wrote then today, I can't understand them. The University of Pennsylvania offered me an opportunity to either become an associate professor in their chemical engineering department or go into medical school into the third year. And so after talking to my wife a lot, because it meant a lot to us financially, we had 2 kids at the time.
The first 25 years, Ed's career was pulmonary research. We packed our bags a lot in those years.
But I got a terrific offer from Cornell in New York City, where the medical school is. So I went to New York City to be there as their chief of pulmonary and critical care medicine.
There was one more stop. As much as Ed loves and excels at research, his strength was in administration.
So we have a tripartite mission here. We have research that's part of what we do, is creation of new knowledge, producing new doctors and teaching, and a lot of clinical care.
As chair of the Department of Internal Medicine, Dr. Crandall is in charge of like 250 faculty members, and he has the oversight for something like 275 residents and fellows, and he's trying to foster research in 10 different divisions.
Ed's vision is integrative collaboration. He wanted to go in there and pull those silos together and have everyone working like a family, the Trojan family.
Ed Crandall is my barometer for the health of USC Keck medicine.
I'm going to be here for a long time.
I know you are.
And when I heard all the candidates coming through, I was surprised to hear how much they spoke about the complexity.
If Ed is happy, if he has a spring in his step, if he's smiling, that means bottom line, the medical center is moving forward nicely and is getting stronger.
And one of them is to make sure that you're communicating with 5% of your patients through the portal in an appropriate way. My magic wand would be to make sure the culture is such that everybody, especially those in leadership positions, values all the other leaders in their world and finds ways to always work together to solve problems in win-win ways.
He's a very thoughtful, strategic thinker and very articulate, tactful, diplomatic. And he always kind of calms it down.
In fact, it's kind of my family joke that I call him the worst case scenario master. He always thinks of the worst case scenario the minute any new idea comes up. And then he plots back from that to make sure that the intended consequences are the outcome.
It's always been about the big picture. It's been about this is what we ought to be doing to move our medical center forward in this regard or that regard.
When he invited me to be the director of the residency program, we went through and he taught me how to structure a program and how to manage a program.
When you're in a leadership position, you have obligations to help the people who work with and for you to succeed, and not for you to succeed only. The way I look at it is if they succeed, I succeed. How much money does that cost? $100,000 per resident. I meet with the med students for a number of reasons. One is to find out what they're thinking about the clerkships. In addition to that, I want them to know who I am and get a feel for what a department chair does in an academic setting. I still consider myself a physician scientist, but I consider myself a physician administrator as well.
Early on, Ed began advising the Will Rogers Foundation.
The USC lab is our primary lab. It's our mothership, if you want to look at it that way, with Ed at the helm. Ed Crandall has really taken it personally to see that this country has enough pulmonary docs.
I think of him as flat. He just keeps going at what he wants to find out. If what his hypothesis doesn't come out the way he thought, he just picks himself up and starts over again.
Ed Crandall is a distinguished clinician, a distinguished, federally funded, NIH-funded researcher. He does not have to take time to make sure that the call center at USC is working. I don't take that time. He does. And that's the mark of the man.
He wants to do what's right for the system. It's not necessarily about the department, but he's always emphasizing making the right choices and making the right decisions that's going to benefit the medical enterprise as a whole.
I set him up to meet the head of the Kresge Foundation, who were funding work in preventive medicine and were not funding anything in his lab. But because he was there and because of his leadership here, he just took the time to go to the foundation and say thank you. That's special when you're not going in to just pitch for your own work, but you're truly representing the school and its breadth of programs and initiatives.
Ed is instrumental in everything we've ever done with this charity for the Will Rogers Institute. Without Ed, there is no Will Rogers Institute. Let's put it simply like that.
The Trojan family, along with our family, the kids and the grandkids, that's been everything for Ed.
What we do is urgent. There's no time to waste to come up with cures, to come up with good research answers, to train good people. That we've got to get the answers to what we're working on as soon as possible because people are getting sick and we've got to deal with that all the time. I want what I'm working on to be considered important and urgent. And in fact, I've always gotten that out of medicine, and I feel lucky to be able to be there.